Hello again, and welcome to the Joaquim4gov broadcast. It's still 1st of February 2013, PM edition. In lieu of questions and feedback and comments and all that stuff that I was talking about last time, I just listened to the video that I last did so that I can remember what I was talking about. I did get a lot of feedback from Nikki and Nicole Burt, thank you. That's way too much to answer right now, or in one hit. A lot of topics you asked me about. I did the magic voodoo with YouTube though, so I can go over 15 minutes now, which is good. We'll find it. I don't know how long I have to go. So I'll be a little bit more specific, I guess. I live in Sydney, Australia, New South Wales. Talking about the Australian federal election. Julia might have given it away, but if you don't know that, then you wouldn't know that. So I'm going to be running based out of Sydney. Have a wife, 2 kids, live in the mountains, work in the city, hence the long commute. I'll address a couple of things that Nikki brought up. I guess they go into being a libertarian and my own personal beliefs and things like that. For those of you friends that have already given me likes and shares and whatever else, thank you. Sorry about that going on today, so hopefully at some point, like I said before, this will spread to a level that it is exposed to more of the general public and people that I don't already know personally. I guess that's the point. So Nikki asked me about, what was it, a republic? What I think about an Australian republic. Did you look up libertarianism, by the way? It's very radical, isn't it? I think freedom and independence is a big one there, so obviously I'm against having any sort of ties with the crown, whether it be ceremonial or not. If you look into the way our parliament is structured and acts, we are still very much tied to the crown in many ways. It's just not exercised, but the power and the mechanisms are still there. So short answer, yes, I'm very much for an Australian republic. It all depends on the model though. That's key. It needs to be structured correctly. And I don't think I was old enough to vote in the last referendum, but from memory, that's how they got it, didn't they? It was, do you not want a republic, or do you want this very specific republic, which is not how it should have been done. You should have asked, do you want one or not? Then we work about framing it. I remember Nikki also asked me about native title, and it reminded me of times that I've gone down to Canberra and I've looked at visited the Aboriginal 10 Embassy and looked at the signs they've got around, and something that really captured me, that I really liked, I took pictures of every time I saw it, is they're asking for sovereignty, and that's what they're talking about. I guess you don't ask for sovereignty, but that's what it's all about. And if you know the real meaning of that word, that should apply to everyone, and that's what I think about native title. The individual can be the sovereign. How about that? Which is what they seem to be asking for in the signs and paintings. It's just beautiful. Currently, the Queen or the Crown is the sovereign, and we are her subjects, and that's rubbish. And why can't we all be the sovereign? We can all be in charge of ourselves. We're not subjects, we're not owned by someone else. That's ridiculous in this day and age. So that's what I think. In more specifics, things like resources, being able to hunt on land, gather resources and water and things like that. Again, Everyone should be able to do that if they own the land. Why not? You know, we still have the Crown able to claim resources on your land that you own. I don't know how much you own it, but using that word, that shouldn't be the case either. The state should not be able to just swoop in and take anything on your land whenever they feel like it. The state or the Crown, to a land, you can do whatever you want with it. I guess it gets more murky talking about exclusive rights, unless, you know, individual landowner or native title. If they own the land, they own the land. That's the end of it as far as I'm concerned. If there is a claim against existing land, it depends on a lot of variables there, which I won't go into. But that's generally my ideology on that one. Equal rights for everyone. You know, I don't think any of us were involved in this, but the land was seized, it was taken by force. People terrible things happened, displaced, all of that. So there needs to be something to address that, not just I'm sorry or whatever you want to do. If that makes you feel good, great, but I don't think that's really addressing anything or historic or bad to do. I mean, on the other side of things, why wouldn't you want to let them say sorry? Good for you. You know, if you don't like it, you didn't say sorry. You probably didn't even vote for them if you didn't like that. I'm talking about Kev saying sorry to the native people. So, you know, if you disagree with that, that's your business. What else did you talk about, Nick? Gun regulation. There's probably a lot of tension and hype around that globally right now, but it's always been there. There's always been a push to disarm the citizenry. It's been going on forever. Again, if you've looked up what a libertarian believes, the history of libertarians, famous historically, yeah, absolutely. The individual should be allowed to be armed. I am a licensed firearms owner. I've gone through all the hoops and continue to do so. And as much as I would like to change those, it's tight enough as well right now. There's no urgency to go either way, I don't think. I do believe ideologically that armed citizenry has, you know, lower crime, there's repelling against invasion. Nikki also brought up national defense spending and procurement and things like that. Let's be honest. If we're talking about defending Australia from invasion, it's our population, our landmass, our coastal dwelling. It's just not possible without relying on outside powers, which is against the ideology of a libertarian that wants independence. So, relying on America or, you know, China or something like that to bring us our national defense is absurd, and, you know, they can opt out of that whenever the hell they want. We're basically sitting ducks. So we can either bankrupt ourselves trying to do it ourselves, or we can have an armed citizenry, just like in the World War II days with America and Japan. You know, they said they wouldn't even dare to try and think about invading America because there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass or something like that. Obviously, times have changed as we talk about school shootings and massacres and things like that. I'll come back to that this broadcast since I've got a bit more time. But from an ideological standpoint, I think that's, if we're talking national defense seriously, that's the only way that we're going to be able to do it. If you want to be part of peacekeeping missions and treaties and NATO and UN and all that kind of business, that's a different story. But that really isn't national defense. This whole line of defending our interests overseas or whatever, it's rubbish. It's defending our relationships with overseas interests, and it's a waste of money. I don't think as long as we have any people in Australia that are homeless, that are in poverty, that are struggling, we shouldn't be poking our noses anywhere else in the world until we look after our house. Okay, so this brings me back to some conversations I've had with a friend Niels of mine, talking about what I would do if I actually did get into office, how libertarian ideas are so radically different compared to what we're used to in government these days. And I think it's a goal and an idea that you move towards. And the way that I describe it is that I find somewhere in our framework, in our regulation or acts or laws, where there's pressure for freedom at very little cost to the dependent, and you provide people an option out. A very easy way to relate, it's obviously not relevant to federal, if you in local council and you give people an option to take care of their own rubbish collection, and if they choose to do that, they pay less rates. Simple idea. If you don't want to do anything, you don't have to do anything. If you want to opt out, you can. And that is the kind of way that I would make changes. There are obviously classical libertarian ideas that, if you're not harming anyone, then there's no reason for it to be regulated. Mandatory bicycle helmets, seatbelt laws, things like that. That is something that is a bit more obvious, a bit more open. You can't do that with everything. Something like pay as you go. We pay tax, we pay income tax. Every pay or whatever, it's taken out so that we can, that's the slice of our income tax that we pay at the end of the year. You don't have an option to not do that if you're just a regular employee of a company. And you should, if you wanted to. If you've got the responsibility to hold on to that money until the end of the year, why not? Think about the interest you could earn yourself on that tax that you will pay at the end of the year that you don't have the choice to do, but I will bet you that the government does. They've got that liquidity that they use, and you could earn a little bit more capital there, and then you could even pay more tax because you would have to pay tax on that as well. But that's just an example off the top of my head. I think that might even touch on banking and finance regulation for you there, Nick. Nearly all of the things that she brought up can simply be answered by that. To find pressure where you can give people an option to be responsible for themselves with the trade-off of more freedom that doesn't impact the dependent. Now, what I mean by that is, take welfare for example. If I was in a position to do so, to eliminate welfare overnight, whether I would deal with that or not, which I obviously wouldn't, if I was in a position to do that, what is that doing to people that paid into that system that should be there to support them, for 40 years, and you take that away overnight? So, going back to what I would actually do, and even the guns, that is where I would make changes. I wouldn't even try that you can walk around the street with a loaded gun on your hip and there's no consequence to that. Frankly, because society's not ready for that. It needs to be a gradual change towards freedom. And if society's not dealing with that, it'll move. That's why the option approach works. You give people the window for freedom and responsibility. If that's popular and that takes a load off the state and to do that for you, and creates more openings for further relief of that particular pressure. And if it doesn't take, you haven't taken away from the dependent, you haven't done anything unfair as well. So it's all about coercion, libertarian. I have the right to do whatever the hell I want, as long as I don't take away your right to do whatever the hell you want, or I put coercion on you to do something. That's what it is. So have a think about that. It's not radically changing the country. Whether you could or not, that shouldn't be how it goes. So getting back to the guns, yes, there is a lot of popular sentiment against civilian gun ownership. What I ask you to do in that regard is to historically have a look at societies that allowed themselves to be completely disarmed. It's really not about hunting or sports shooting or anything like that, as you have to say in this country, because apparently it's a privilege and they drill that into you, and that's always the conversation, and it shouldn't be. Again, libertarian approach is very similar to the founding fathers of the US. So over the coming months, I will be quoting them, paraphrasing them, butchering their ideas, where it's for defense against a tyrannical government. That is what civilian gun ownership has always been about, not just the modern idea, just always. And before then, civilian right to be armed, whether it's swords, knives, spears, throughout history and the world, all of that has been regulated, has been tried to be eradicated. Sometimes it's worked with disastrous consequences for that society. So look into that. Or if you're on the other side of the coin, you do agree that people should be able to have guns for, what I just talked about, either for the real reason or for hunting and target shooting and that kind of thing. So that may sound a bit extreme. Having said that, I'm not walking the streets with an armed gun talking about how if the government tries to oppress me, that's how I'm going to do it. That's why I'm doing this. That's what, if you don't like, that comes back to, if you don't like government, do something about it. We are the government, or we're meant to be. So it's an idea. Just like if you're on the left side of the spectrum, political spectrum, that ultimately leads to massive collectivism and state-controlled everything. So that's a radical idea as well, and that's what they move towards when they haven't been in power for a while, and they are. So it's not really that radical to have an idea. It's not illegal yet. You can think whatever you want to think. It's still allowed. It's not a thought crime yet, and never should be. I can voice an opinion. If I don't agree with the law, I don't have to brazenly break it, but I can certainly inject myself into the system and change it the way the system wants me to change it. So can you. What else were you talking about, Nikki? Can I remember anything else of it? There was a lot of it. One more thing about the guns. There's never talk about medication that these people are always on. Every single one of them. They're on Prozac type drugs that A known side effect is psychotic breaks, feeling of wanting to kill yourself and others, and all sorts of crazy side effects. And that goes into mental health. You know, if you're not mentally fit to be armed, then you shouldn't be. And all of these people are on those drugs, and it's a big industry, and a lot of people are on it, a lot more per capita than we are. I could be wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure from memory. So that's something that needs to be talked about, and I think it's very, very much in the embryonic stage, but it's relevant. So there's a lot of aspects. If you're a criminal, or if you're not all there mentally, that has an aspect of whether or not you should allow to be armed at all, let alone what I'm talking about generations from now, if ever.
Facebook.
Jeez. So I'll try to leave it there. Let's give you a scattergun approach of stuff that I am for and or against. So going back to the left and right and the personal economic freedom and tyranny, libertarianism is basically personal and economic freedom. So your gay marriage, don't care, do whatever you want to do. What else is hot? Or usually is hot. Boat people. What is that? There's no such thing as boat people. Is it refugees that have come in boats seeking asylum from a war-torn country or whatever it is? We should certainly have mechanisms for that, absolutely. And those mechanisms shouldn't be chucking them in a cell until they lose their mind and kill themselves or burn the place down or whatever. We obviously need to have border control, but those are two separate subjects, and immigration control, totally. They're all disconnected from each other. For a republic, yes, leave gun control where it is right now. Got other things to worry about. Home birth. I'm into home birth. My two kids were born at home, and it's something that the state seems very much like they're trying to stamp out, and that's again individual choice. Leave us alone to do that. If you're against it, go to a hospital. It's got nothing to do with you, what I do in my own home, my own children. It's not a sickness birth. Doesn't need to go to a hospital if you're fine. Same with vaccinations and homeschooling as well. You should have the choice of whether you want to do any of that. And if the government is funding any of that, all three really, it should be equal. Your typical hospital birth isn't free. You know, someone gets paid, and if they intervene a lot and there's lots of extra work for different people in the hospital, they get paid, and that costs money. Your average home birth is a lot cheaper because there's no interventions. It's very, 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 very much less. Same with vaccinations. If the state's paying for it,
Facebook,
and you choose not to do that, you need some action. So that's my notification system if someone's saying something to me, so maybe I'll get somewhere. What about more general mainstream stuff? What are people always complaining about? I kind of tuned that out a bit. Can I think of anything? No, so let's not go there then. Okay. So again, Joaquim4gov. Quality's probably not great because it's night time, so I watched the last one. I could hear what I was saying. There were words and I understood them, so that's all I really care about. It'll be mumbling. You'll have feedback based on that. I'm not going to prepare. I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to have a list of things that I'm going to write out and talk about. The whole point is that it's real, it's me, it's what I think, it's what I do. I'm sick of these politicians having canned answers and ready responses to everything and say a whole load of nothing. So I'm going to say what I mean when it comes to me. If I don't think I have enough expertise in an area to talk about it, I'll see what I can find and let you know. The camera angle isn't great, I know that. Don't care about that either. I'm here to talk to you. I'll give you a video sometime when I'm home, when I'm facing you in the fuzz, to let you see my face front on, I guess, if that's important to you. So please, again, spread the word and give me some feedback, give me something. I imagine I'm going to be talking to myself for a while, that's fine. Get involved some way or another, and thanks for everyone again that has so far, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.